The higher amount would be offered. A child has died following a fire in a block of flats in south-east London. Firefighters rescued a woman and 2 children from the top floor of the building in Greenwich early this morning. One of the children died in hospital. A man has died in a separate flat fire this morning in Islington in North London. Police have started an investigation into the death of a soldier in southwest Wales. The army sergeant was injured in a live firing exercise at the Castlemartin training area in Pembrokeshire on Thursday. And Rangers fans have broken COVID lockdown rules in Scotland by gathering in numbers outside Ibrox Stadium, setting off flares. Rangers could clinch their first Scottish Premiership title in a decade this weekend.
LBC News. Weather. Most of the UK will see lingering patchy clouds tonight, showers in the far north and a low of -1. I'm Tim Humphrey. I've got a full forecast in the next 15 minutes.
LBC News. Travel. On the M40 in Buckinghamshire, there are northbound queues heading from junction 3 to 4 towards High Wycombe at the Handy Cross. That was after an accident, although all lanes are now back open. In Berkshire for the weekend roadworks, the M4 is shut in both directions. That is between junction 6, the Slough and Windsor exit, along to 5 for the A4 near Langley. And in Essex for weekend roadworks, the A13 is closed both ways between Dorset, Carkey and Stanford, La Hope causing queues. On Merseyside for weekend works, the M57 remains shut southbound at junction 1 of the M62 turn. And if you have to use the underground in London, there is no service on the Bakerloo line still between Queen's Park and Harrow and Wealdstone. I'm Johnny Bradley. Your next update is in 20 minutes on LBC News.
This is LBC News.
3:43 right now. This is LBC News. John Stratford with you Saturday afternoon. Let's bring you the headlines. The government is being accused of snatching away a previously suggested pay rise for NHS workers in England of just over 2%. The proposed increase, as we've been hearing over the last couple of days, has been set this year at 1%, with ministers saying that they can't afford more given the financial state the country is in. NHS Providers, which represents trusts in England, believes a long-term plan that was set out years ago assumes that the higher amounts would be offered. Saffron Cordery is Deputy Chief Executive of NHS Providers.
We know that the NHS needs way more now. It's been an incredibly difficult 12 months for the NHS. So it really strengthens the case for a higher pay rise, not undermines it.
Christina McAnee is General Secretary of Unison, and she rejects Minister's plea of poverty.
We don't support that either. I have to say, I think it's shocking. It's not just the NHS officers who've putting themselves on the line. I mean, we're the biggest union for care workers, and, you know, predominantly women, predominantly low paid, treated appallingly by and large. And they have literally been putting their lives on the line. Care workers dying at twice the rate that they would have in normal circumstances in the population. Care workers moving into care homes to sleep on camp beds or in couches just to not risk passing on any infections to both the people they look after but also their families at home, and at the same time getting paid, you know, literally the living wage of £8.72 an hour. And now the government's saying there's nothing in the budget for them, not even a mention of the fact that the whole system needs to be reviewed. And we would say this for all of our members, that, you know, local government staff, whenever there's a crisis, it's always the local government that's expected to turn around and deal with it. So things like unexploded bombs and thousands of people get moved out of their homes, who turns up? It's local government staff to get the call to be told, the middle of the night, it doesn't matter when it is, turn up and fix this. Make sure people are safe, make sure they're warm, make sure they've got food and water and blankets, make sure children are something. That whole infrastructure of public services is what's kept this country going during the pandemic.
Christina McAnee there, the General Secretary of Unison. The Labour Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, has told LBC News that the increase should be far higher.
15% is reasonable. The unions are saying 15%. A substantial real terms increase is what is right and proper in this moment, because it's not just right for the individuals in the NHS in terms of being fair to them. We all need now the NHS to be ready to rise to the massive challenge that is still in front of it.
Andy Burnham there. Kate Andrews is economics correspondent at The Spectator. She says many in the private sector have suffered financially during during the pandemic.
When you break down the official data from the Office for National Statistics, for example, even before the pandemic, you were on average 7% better off if you were working in the public sector than you were in the private sector. Whereas we've just seen the absolute calamities and disaster that's taken place in the private sector.
Kate Andrews there from The Spectator. Let's bring you some of the other headlines that we are following this afternoon. And an infectious disease expert has said that the next few weeks are going to be crucial for keeping coronavirus infections down as schools fully reopen. Dr. Mike Tilsley says a return to classrooms will inevitably lead to a rise in infections, which needs to be balanced by increasing the rate at which vaccinations are delivered. Coronavirus tests are being made available to all businesses in England from today. Lateral flow testing kits will be free until June. The aim of those is to allow employees to undergo regular testing to identify asymptomatic cases of COVID-19 so that those people can be isolated. Pope Francis has met the most senior Shia Muslim cleric in Iraq on the second day of his trip to the country. The pontiff and the Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani came together to say that all faiths should live in peace. A child has died following a fire at a block of flats in southeast London. Happened early this morning. Let's get more from LBC's Holly Jones.
Around 40 firefighters were called early this morning to a block of maisonettes in Greenwich. Crews wearing breathing equipment rescued a woman and 2 children from the top floor of the building in Russet Way, just under half a mile away from Lewisham Railway Station. Paramedics took all 3 to hospital where one of the children died. The London Fire Brigade says part of the top floor of a split-level maisonette was damaged by the fire. An investigation is underway to establish the cause.
A man has died in a separate flat fire in Islington in North London. The London Fire Brigade were called to Mitchelton Road just after 8:10 this morning.
I've left that open just in case somebody wants to park over here and they've come from there. So I've left this little space open.
Issued a fresh appeal for help in finding her this afternoon. Sarah left a friend's house in Clapham at around 9 p.m. on Wednesday, heading for her home in Brixton. Her family say that with every day that goes by, they are getting more worried about Sarah. They say she is always in regular contact with them and with her friends, and it is totally out of character for her to disappear like this. They say no piece of information is too insignificant. A fresh CCTV image of Sarah has been released from the night she was reported missing. You can see that picture at lbc.co.uk. Police in Dundee have arrested a 50-year-old man in connection with the disappearance of a woman and 2 children from South Gloucestershire. Police attended a property in Troon Avenue in Dundee yesterday afternoon as they searched for missing Benny-Lynn Burke, who's 25, and 2 children. We're told a 50-year-old man has been arrested. Police say inquiries are ongoing and that there will be an increased police presence in that area in Dundee over the coming days. Emergency services have been called to the Regent's Park in North London after a group of fishermen found a grenade in the Regent's Canal. This happened this morning. The Met Police say the device has been made safe and emergency services workers have now been leaving the scene. On the way, we'll catch up with more of the headlines today. A leaked document suggests the government is considering cutting foreign aid to some of the world's poorest and most conflict-hit countries. More reaction to that story and the latest sport coming next.
LBC News. You serve, you backhand, you topspin, you get your phone out. Oh, multitasking.
That's because people park on the dual carriageway. You have to be aware of them people parking their cars there. So you've got to watch out for people pulling out in front of your path.
With one click, you switch energy, broadband, mobiles. Growing a small business is a challenge, whether you sell healthy gourmet sandwiches or vintage t-shirts for every occasion.
Here on the roundabout, I'm going to turn right. I'm going to take the 3rd exit. The 3rd exit goes towards Bramley. It goes down towards Leeds City Centre. As I'm turning to the right, as I go past the 2nd exit, I've got to push the car to the left if I don't steer to the left, I will not just fail my driving test, I will have an accident. You'll see this as I start steering. As we go past the second exit, and I'll count myself down. So we're going to start following the road round. I'm going to follow the red car and the blue car. So I'm in my lane, I'm following the road round, and now slowly start pushing the car towards the left here. So I'm in my lane. That's all you've got to do. Now to make progress. The speed limit is 7070. Travel at an appropriate speed.
Is being cut from £164 million to £87 million. The Conservative MP and former International Development Secretary Andrew Mitchell says the cuts could put the UK at risk.
By making these societies more safe and more prosperous, we become more safe and more prosperous too. If you tackle the effects of terrorism and misery in sub-Saharan Africa, you stop that money.
I'm afraid it is what it is. The speed limit now is 3030. I'm looking in my right door mirror, I can see a BMW. He's trying to push his way in, and now he's slowed down, and now he's gone behind my car. How do I know? I'm checking my mirrors as I'm approaching the merging turn, or where the lane finishes. Again, the speed limit is 30. I've got to travel at 30.
You know, it's not credible to think that government ministers will wake up one morning next year and say the economy is doing so well, we're going to increase foreign direct assistance. So I would argue that the cuts that were announced this week, which are horrific in terms of the Yemen, will mean that hundreds of thousands of people, mainly children, will die. In the case of Yemen, many starving to death. The leak that's come out about the other cuts, particularly in Syria, where Britain has been a world leader, not just producing taxpayers' cash, but actually, because of our example, dragging in money from other countries.
Still 30, still 30. Despite everybody overtaking me, and now I can make progress.
Still, of course, a Conservative MP, the Foreign Office has previously said the impact of the pandemic on the UK economy has forced ministers to take tough decisions on foreign aid. 5 to 4 right now. This is
So I'm going to come off on the slip road. Here I've got to watch out for cars emerging on this road and me exiting. So I've checked my mirrors, got my signal on. I'm not going to turn in until I know it's safe. So I'm going to look in my door mirror. It looks safe to me. I'm now going to come into this left lane. Speed limit changes, be aware of the speed limit change. Adjust the speed appropriately.
Inside 11 minutes, but Teller has caused all sorts of trouble for Sheffield United's defence. A couple of yellow cards for those as well. Just one chance really for Sheffield United. Only a nudge possibly. There could have been a penalty. James Bowman going over. They nudged over by James Ward-Prowse. The referee Paul Tierney had a good long look at it, but nothing doing. It's certainly nothing doing for Sheffield United in front of goal. It's Sheffield United nil, Southampton 1.
Elsewhere, Arsenal were held to a 1-1 draw at Burnley in the early kick-off in the Premier League this afternoon. There is a West Midlands derby this evening as Aston Villa host Wolves. That's a 5:30 kick-off. Third place Leicester go to Brighton tonight. That one getting underway at 8 o'clock. Rangers are leading St Mirren 2-0 as they attempt to close in on a first Scottish Premiership title in a decade. A win at Ibrox, coupled with rival Celtic slipping up against Dundee United tomorrow, would see them crowned champions. Now, a large number of Rangers fans gathered outside Ibrox before kick-off, breaking coronavirus rules. Police say they have made no arrests following what happened just before 3 o'clock.
I'm going to turn right on the roundabout here. It's a very busy roundabout. Make sure you travel at an appropriate speed and you take effective observations.
Scenes like this would be entirely expected, but these, of course, are not normal times. COVID restrictions mean that public gatherings in Scotland are currently banned, and Police Scotland say that no one was arrested, but reminded them to observe lockdown rules.
Elsewhere this afternoon, Motherwell,
you can see the mess this Ford Fiesta is causing.
St Johnstone are leading 1-0 at home to Hibs. It's 1-1 between Ross County and Kilmarnock. And
that's because she stopped on the roundabout.
Hamilton. England's cricketers have collapsed.
If you do need to stop on the roundabout, leave space. Let the roundabout flow.
3-1. The tourists lost by an innings and 25 runs inside 3 days.
I'm now going to turn right at the traffic lights.
Headlines on the way next.
This is LBC News. Morning everyone, I'd like to introduce you to Nisha. She's taking over from Bill in account. Please update us on the current status, Nisha.
Thanks, Tony. I want to start by drilling down into the third quarter figures. We are now heading into our busiest period with all the contracts.
On average, to get the same size pension as a man, women would have to start work a lot younger. This International Women's Day, find out what you can do to close the £100,000 pension gap. Search Scottish Widows online. Scottish Widows, taking on your future together.
Hi there, small business owner. Your tiny QuickBooks team here. Just a quick reminder that we take care of calculating and filing your VAT and payroll taxes, which makes it easier for you to manage throughout the year. That's right. You're not missing out on any tax savings.
Not on our watch.
For available tax products, visit quickbooks.co.uk.
Every step aside, every road crossed to avoid passing on the pavement, every gap we mind on public transport, every space left between shopping trolleys, everyone who keeps a safe distance if they have to go out is helping stop the spread of COVID-19, because around 1 in 3 people who have it have no symptoms and are spreading it without knowing. Everything we're doing is making a difference. Let's keep going. Stay home, protect the NHS, save lives.
LBC News. The latest news headlines next. If the thought of selling your car feels like, well, sell your car like a pro at motorway.co.uk. Motorway finds your best offer from a nationwide network of verified dealers. You can get up to £1,000 more than part exchange. Sell your car hassle-free without the drama. Go to motorway.co.uk and sell your car like a pro. Motorway.co.uk. On your radio, on Global Player, and
LBC News.
where the news never stops. This is LBC News.
From Global's newsroom, it's 4 o'clock. I'm John Strange. Good afternoon. Here's the latest. The government's being accused of snatching away a previously suggested pay rise of just over 2% for NHS workers.
We're going to follow the taxi.
Increase for this year.
We're going to take the next one on the left.
Ministers saying they can't afford more. NHS providers, which represents trusts in England, believes a long-term plan set out years ago assumed the higher amounts would be offered. A child has died following a fire in a block of flats in southeast London. Firefighters rescued a woman and 2 children from the top floor of the building in Greenwich early this morning. One of the children died in hospital. A man has died in a separate flat fire this morning in Islington in North London. Pope Francis has met one of the world's leading Shia clerics in Iran to talk about improving relations between Christians and Muslims. Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani used the historic meeting to affirm that religious authorities have a role in protecting Iran's Christians. And Rangers fans have broken COVID lockdown rules in Scotland by gathering in large numbers outside Ibrox, setting off flares. Rangers could win the Scottish Premiership title this weekend, first time in a decade.
LBC News. Weather. Most of the UK will see lingering patchy clouds tonight, showers in the far north and a low of -1. I'm Tim Humphrey. I've got a full forecast in the next 15 minutes.
We're Gonna take the next road on the right.
If you need to make a journey this afternoon, a serious collision in Devon continues to close the A30 westbound from Salton down along to Launceston. In Berkshire, for Highways England works, the M4 is once again closed this weekend, this time in both directions. Between Junction 6, the Slough and Windsor exit, along to 5 at the A4 near Langley. In Essex, the A13, that remains closed both ways. In Orsicock and Stanford Hope for the weekend works. In Oxfordshire, to the northwest of Abingdon, the A420 is closed eastbound from Southmore to Tutley after a milk tanker caught fire. And in Merseyside, the M57 southbound remains closed at Junction 1 of the M62 for the weekend works. I'm Johnny Ratner. Your next update is in 20 minutes on LBC News.
This is LBC News.
2 minutes past 4 right now. This is LBC News. The government is being accused of snatching away a previously suggested pay rise of just over 2% for NHS workers in England. The proposed increase for this year has been set at 1%, with ministers saying that they can't afford more. NHS providers, which represents trusts in England, believes a long-term plan set out years ago assumed the higher amount would be offered. Let's hear from the Deputy Chief Executive of NHS providers, Saffron Cordery. She says they can understand why the government says there isn't the money for a bigger rise.
What we have to remember is that this pay rise was baked into what was promised to the NHS and indeed is set out as part of the revenue settlement, which is an act of Parliament now, the NHS Funding Act 2020. So it's really enshrined in law that there should be a pay rise of 2.1%. And I think what we've got to remember is that the revenue settlement was there to deliver the long-term plan. The long-term plan was brought into being long before the pandemic, and that was to deliver everything the NHS needs. We know that the NHS needs way more now. It's been an incredibly difficult 12 months for the NHS. So it really strengthens the case for a higher pay rise, not undermines it.
Saffron Cordery there, the Deputy Chief Executive of NHS providers. Mel Kerr is a staff nurse in Lincolnshire. She's told LBC News that she doesn't accept the government's arguments that ministers can't afford this.
There absolutely is the money out there. The fact that the government has recently spent 25 billion or given it to companies to be able to do structural improvements in manufacturing warehouses, but they can't give £2 billion to nurses who demand a pay rise for something that they haven't had for the last. In fact, we've had a real-time pay cut over the last decade. And in terms of people losing their jobs, especially within the public sector, we recognise that and we stand in solidarity with our public sector colleagues. However, we cannot be held to account for the failings of this government in terms of financial support for these individuals. That's not something that we should be held to account for. And actually, we are in the same position. We need to be recognised for the work that we do. Morale was already low. Let's be honest, even before the pandemic hit, we are in a situation where we're facing chronic staffing shortages.
Speed limit change.
In the NHS, and then to be hit by a global pandemic, which really has just wiped staff out completely, both physically, emotionally, and mentally. So at the moment, morale is completely at an all-time low. We've got a survey where it says 43% of nurses are looking to leave the profession, and 11% have said they absolutely will do. Now is the time for action. We cannot afford to lose any more staff, otherwise the system will fail.
Mel Kerr there, a staff nurse in Lincolnshire. The calls for more money for NHS workers, including nurses, has even come from a veteran Conservative backbencher, Sir Roger Gale, the Conservative MP for North Thanet. He has said that the government's handling of this suggestion on pay has been crass beyond belief. Now let's hear what he told Andrew Castle on LBC earlier.
A lot of people have lost their jobs in the private sector. People have had businesses destroyed through the pandemic. The nation has had a hard time. Now, the people who've seen us through much of that hard time are the entire health service family, not just nurses, doctors, ancillary staff, the people who do the cooking, people who do the sluicing, the really dirty jobs. And they do have to be rewarded. I'm absolutely certain of that. Normally, Andrew, when you go into a negotiation, government starts low, unions go high. You meet somewhere in the middle if you're lucky, and an agreement is reached and it's signed off. And we had an agreement with the health service over a 3-year contract, which is coming to an end. And that's why there's now a pay review body doing its job.
Yeah.
Is 1% enough? No, I don't think it is, and I don't think that's what the public expects. I doubt it's what the government expects either. And I think what should have happened, because this is an exceptional year, and it really is an exceptional year, has been an exceptional year, is that we should have left, the government should have left the peer review body to get on and do its job, and then without fear or favour graciously to accept whatever the recommendation is. Right. That's not always what happens, but in this instance, I think that is the fair way.
What do you think is a fair amount of money to increase the salary by?
I'm not going to try, I'm not even going to begin to try to put a figure on it.
Well, if 1% is wrong, something else is right.
Yes, something else is right, and that's why we have a pay review body to work that figure out.
I thought.
What I'm saying to you is, there is an expectation, there has been and remains an expectation, that the people who have done an enormous amount, there are others, the police, the fire brigade, bus drivers, all sorts of people have gone out to try to get us through this, but particularly on the front line.
It's the next right.
That's really gone.
Where that Range Rover pulled out from.
I think the handling of this has been crass beyond belief. Who is ultimately responsible for that? I'm not sure.
Sir Roger Gale there, the Conservative MP for North Thanet, speaking to Andrew Castle on LBC this morning. Let's bring you some of the other stories this afternoon. A child has died following a fire at a block of flats in southeast London. Let's get more from LBC's Holly Jones.
Around 40 firefighters were called early this morning to a block of maisonettes in Greenwich. Crews wearing breathing equipment rescued a woman and 2 children from the top floor of the building in Russet Way, just under half a mile away from Lewisham Railway Station. Paramedics took all 3 to hospital, where 1 of the children died. The London Fire Brigade says part of the top floor of a split-level maisonette was damaged by the fire. An investigation is underway to establish the cause.
A man has died following a separate flat fire this morning in Islington in North London. And this happened on Mitchison Road about 8 o'clock this morning. The man was found dead at the scene. The cause of that fire is under investigation. A 50-year-old man has been arrested in Dundee in connection with the disappearance of a woman and 2 children from South Gloucestershire. Police attended a property in Troon Avenue in Dundee yesterday afternoon as they searched for missing Benilyn Burke, who is 25, and 2 children. Police say inquiries are ongoing and there will be an increased police presence in the area over the coming days. A 50-year-old man has been arrested. Inquiries, we are told, are continuing. A sergeant in the Welsh Guards has died after being injured in a live firing exercise in southwest Wales. Let's get more on this from LBC's Rebecca Miles.
The incident did happen at the Castlemartin training area on Thursday. We're told his family have been informed. Now, this is not the first time incidents at the Castlemartin Rangers have claimed the lives of soldiers. As recently as 2017, 2 corporals died from injuries they suffered after their tank exploded. That also happened during a training exercise on a firing range. Well, an army spokesperson said an investigation is ongoing into what happened this week, so it would be inappropriate for them to comment further.
An investigation is continuing after the sudden death of a 16-year-old girl in the Rhondda in South Wales yesterday. Police and ambulance crews were called to reports of a stabbing in Treorchy. The cause of death hasn't been confirmed. 2 men have been arrested and are being treated in hospital for serious injuries. A suspected murder in Harrogate in North Yorkshire is being described by police as a contained incident with no wider risk to the public. Police were called to Mayfield Grove in Harrogate just after 10 o'clock last night and found a suspect in the street. The 48-year-old man was found inside a nearby flat with serious injuries and was later pronounced dead at the scene by ambulance staff. North Yorkshire police say a 23-year-old man is in custody and continues to be questioned on suspicion of murder.
LBC News.
Let's bring you the latest coronavirus data which we've had in the last few minutes. So we're hearing a further 158 people have died within 28 days of testing positive for COVID-19. So another 158 deaths. The total number on that measure now 124,419. A further 6,040 cases of COVID-19 have been reported across the UK in the latest 24-hour period. And a further 437 first doses of COVID vaccine have been administered in the latest 24-hour period. 21.79 million people have now received a first dose, and the number of people who've received a second dose is now 1.09 million. On the way, we'll catch up with the sport this afternoon, and we'll also get more on the case of missing Sarah Everard, the 33-year-old who has gone missing in South London. Her family growing increasingly concerned about her. We'll get the latest on that story on the way.
LBC News.
What am I saving for? My passion, food photography.
I'd train to be a landscape garden designer.
Open a food store and sell my famous fish tacos.
I go to Stone Landscape.
I'd be a wedding planner.
I'd start a dog grooming business.
Sorry, we'd start a dog grooming business.
What are you waiting for? Make your one day happen with a Fidelity Stocks and Shares ISA. Your capital surplus tax laws may change. Full tax for stocks and shares ISA are available on our website. 18 plus UK residents. Every soap grabbed, every tap turned, every 20-second hand wash the moment we get home, every sanitizer bottle searched for in our bag, every time we pick up a package or have to go into a shop. Everyone who keeps their hands clean is helping stop the spread of COVID-19. Because anyone can catch it, and anyone can spread it. Everything we're doing is making a difference. Let's keep going. Stay home, protect the NHS, save lives.
What does it take to help a teenage girl living with cervical cancer? Making a nice cuppa, fetching a blanket, giving all your place, and having a conversation about freezing her eggs in case the treatment leaves her infertile. We do whatever it takes to help people living with cancer. But we can only do it with your help. Donate online today at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support. Whatever it takes.
LBC News.
Weather. Most of the UK will see lingering patchy clouds tonight. Showers will continue in the far north, turning heavy in places and wintry on higher ground. Further south, it will remain dry with light winds and a low of -3. Tomorrow, England and Wales will remain dry and settled with bright spells between patches of cloud. Showers will become more widespread in Scotland, with some reaching Northern Ireland at times. On Monday, western Scotland and Northern Ireland will see some rain, staying dry further south, periods of sunshine.
This is LBC News. It is 4:15 right now. John Stratford with you this Saturday afternoon. Let's update you on the sports. Arsenal were held to a 1-1 draw at Burnley in the early kick-off in the Premier League. Let's get a report from that match. It was an eventful one. Adam Jury was watching at Turf Moor.
Everything about modern day Arsenal was on display at Turf Moor in this match. At times the Gunners were great on the eye. The Aubameyang goal came from superb team passing play, and it looked like the Gunners were going to build from it. But no one expected them to concede the way they did. Xhaka's decision making was baffling. From there the Gunners lost their way. For Burnley, it's a precious point as they edge closer to guaranteeing their Premier League status. But for Arsenal it feels like one step forward, two steps back. Burnley 1, Arsenal 1.
Southampton are now 2-0 up in their match at Sheffield United this afternoon. So Southampton have scored in the second half now. Adams getting the goal on 49 minutes. Sheffield United 0, Southampton 2 is the latest score. 57 minutes gone in that game. We have West Midlands Derby this evening. Aston Villa host Wolves from 5:30, and then third place Leicester go to Brighton this evening. That is an 8 o'clock kick-off tonight. In the early kick-off in the Championship, Watford beat Nottingham Forest 1-0 to move into the automatic promotion places. Rangers are now 3-0 up against St Mirren at Ibrox as they attempt to close in on a first Scottish Premiership title in a decade. It could be the weekend that Rangers clinch their first Scottish Premiership title in a decade. Let's get more on what's been happening at Ibrox. There has been some concern about fans gathering outside the stadium. Jack Foster has more for LBC News.
Huge numbers of Rangers fans had dispersed by kick-off here at Ibrox, leading
hiding behind a sea of broken bottles and used smoke bomb canisters. They turned out in celebratory mood ahead of what looks likely to be Rangers' first Premiership win in over a decade. In normal times, scenes like this would be entirely expected, but these, of course, are not normal times. COVID restrictions mean that public gatherings in Scotland are currently banned, and Police Scotland say that no one was arrested, but reminded them to observe lockdown rules. Manager Stephen Gerrard called on fans to temper their excitement this weekend as they reach this huge moment, and police already look set to have their work cut out. They say they're aware of planned gatherings in Glasgow.
It's the next left, where the Audi's going, where the van's coming out from.
Within touching distance of winning the league, the only thing standing in the way would be success for Celtic against Dundee United tomorrow.
Look out for buses.
3-0 up now in that match, an hour
sharp turn.
Rangers 3, St Mirren 0, the latest score. Motherwell now 2-0 up at home to Livingston. Ross County 3-1 up.
At the roundabout, we're turning right, third exit.
1-0 up at home to
up Henconner Lane.
Aberdeen Hamilton is still goalless. England's cricketers collapsed to another defeat in the fourth and final test in India this morning. Tourists lost by an innings and 25 runs inside 3 days.
Keep an eye on the buses.
Means they lose the series 3-1.
LBC News.
Let's get more now on the case of missing Sarah Everard, a 33-year-old woman who has gone missing in South London. She left a friend's house in Clapham at about 9 p.m. on Wednesday night, heading for her home in Brixton. Her family have released a statement saying that with every day that goes by, they are getting more worried about her. And they say that this is very out of character for her to disappear without contact with her family and friends. Teams have been searching ponds in Clapham Common to help with this search. Detective Chief Inspector Ian Kenwood is from the Metropolitan Police.
I'm here today to appeal for information for the whereabouts of Sarah Everard. She was last seen on Wednesday the 3rd of March. She had been to a friend's house in Leithway Road. We believe she left about 9 o'clock and was heading home towards Brixton. We're not clear on which exact route she took. The A205 South Circular would certainly be a sensible route to take, but we're not sure, and we have not had any contact from Sarah and no from her family.
Detective Chief Inspector Ian Kenwood there from the Metropolitan Police. The Met have released a fresh CCTV image of Sarah from the night she was reported missing, and you can see that at
beware of buses in the middle.
.uk. On the way, we'll catch up with the latest headlines.
This is LBC News.
If you're wondering what you can do with your pension pot, this could be how you're feeling. That's the sound of worry and uncertainty, but you could be hearing this. Let's call it the sound of clarity, which you can get from PensionWise, a government service providing free, impartial guidance. In just an hour, you'll get clarity on all your options so everything feels less. And a little more. If you're over 50, discover
this will take us to Bramley Centre.
0800 144 8944 or visit pensionwise.gov.uk. Yakult contains mystical spirits of the beautiful gut. Actually, it contains bacteria scientifically proven to reach the gut alive.
We all have our own personal relationship with money, how we spend, save and budget, our goals and dreams for the future.
I've stopped in a cycle box. Stops me going through red. Exceptional circumstances.
This app can help you master it. It helps you see how you're spending and any upcoming scheduled payments, so you can make a clear plan for your money. Master your moneyverse and make money work for you. Barclays. You need to be 16 or over to use the app.
I need to move into the lane that goes ahead. That's the right hand side lane.
Every 20 minutes, 24 hours a day, with the news.
The lane on the left becomes the first exit on the roundabout, takes you to Stanningley Road. This lane goes ahead, it goes into Bramley Centre.
I'm John Stratford. Good afternoon. Here is the latest. The body that represents health trusts in England is accusing the government of snatching planned pay rises from the pockets of deserving NHS staff. NHS providers says that nurses and other health workers were expecting an increase of at least 2.1% rather than the 1% which is actually being offered. A child has died following a fire in a block of flats in southeast London. Firefighters rescued a woman and 2 children from the top floor of the building in Greenwich. early this morning, one of the children died in hospital. A man has died in a separate flat fire this morning in Islington, in North London. Pope Francis has met one of the world's leading Shia clerics in Iraq to talk about improving relations between Christians and Muslims. Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani used the historic meeting to affirm that religious authorities have a role in protecting Iraq's Christians. And Rangers fans have broken COVID lockdown rules in Scotland by gathering in numbers outside Ibrox, setting off flares. This weekend could see Rangers clinch the Scottish Premiership title for the first time in a decade.
LBC News weather.
Most of the UK will see lingering patchy clouds tonight, showers in the far north and a low of -1. I'm Tim Humphrey. I've got a full forecast in the next 15 minutes.
LBC News travel.
If you need to use the roads this evening in Devon, the A30, that remains closed westbound from Sawton Cross along to Launceston for the ongoing accident investigation work. In Berkshire for the weekend roadworks, the M4 is once again closed this weekend, this time in both directions, between junction 6, the Slough and Winterton, along to 5 near Langley. In Essex, the A13, that is closed in both directions between Orsicock and Stadford Hope, that is for the weekend roadworks. In Oxfordshire, northwest of Abingdon, the A420 is shut eastbound from Southmore along to Tubney after a milk tanker caught fire. And on Merseyside, the M57 is closed southbound at the M62 for the weekend works. I'm Johnny Ratner. Your next updates in 20 minutes on LBC News.
This is LBC News.
4:23 right now. Health bosses have joined a call for health workers in England to get the 2.1% pay rise that they were expecting. The government says it can now only afford 1%. Health unions say they are going to ballot on industrial action, potentially going as far as strikes. Mike Adams is the director for England at the Royal College of Nursing, and he's told LBC News that this isn't just a COVID issue.
We've been calling for,
I'm going to turn left at the end of the road, then immediate right.
we have a huge
Be careful here. It's an accident hotspot. Make sure you position correctly for the second turn.
Well, Mike Goldsworthy is a doctor and founder of Scientists for EU. He's also the director of March for Change, the campaign group calling for a public inquiry into the handling of the COVID pandemic. He's told LBC News a 1% pay rise for NHS health workers in England is not acceptable.
We send them to battle at the front line, and that is directly caused not only, the health problems and deaths that we've seen in that population, but the amount of stress and pressure that is being put on them is something else. You've got to think here about practicalities. You want your staff to stay on. You don't want to be chasing them off. And there's another thing as well, which is because of the freezes to the pension allowances that have also been announced in this budget. This means lots of them are actually losing a lot more money because of that. And the Health Services Journal and the President of the Royal College of Surgeons in England have all started warning this is going to cause lots of unemployment because it's just not worth their while. So it's not only devastating in terms of morale, it's also going to devastate that actual workforce. That's the real consideration here.
Dr. Mike Goldsworthy, now founder of Scientists for EU. Let's hear from the Greater Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham. He was Health Secretary under Gordon Brown, and he's told LBC News that the 1% pay rise being offered is just not good enough.
What it means for the NHS and also because the NHS has got a mountain in front of it, not just dealing with the rest of the pandemic, but all of the other health issues that have been on hold while the pandemic has been going on. The number of people now waiting over a year for treatment is increased massively. We can't afford to have demoralised workforce at this time. So I would say to the government, if the public feeling is clear, U-turn on this today, do the U-turn today. Say that it was wrong to put forward 1%, put a proper deal on the table, and include a bonus as well, because of all of the extra efforts the NHS staff have gone through this August this year. That is the right thing to do to put the NHS in the right position with everything that is still ahead of it.
Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham there. The government have insisted that the financial situation of the pandemic has left the country. It means that 1% is all that can be afforded at the moment. And other public sector workers aren't getting a pay rise at all, whereas health workers are going to get something 1%. Much more on this story, of course, at the website lbc.co.uk.
News never stops. LBC News.
A child has died following a fire at a block of flats in Greenwich in southeast London. This happened early this morning in Russet Way, about half a mile away from Lewisham railway station. Around 40 firefighters were called early this morning to a block of maisonettes there. A woman and 2 children were rescued from the top floor. All 3 were taken to hospital. One of the children died in hospital. An investigation is underway to establish the cause. A man has died in a separate flat fire in Islington in North London. And this happened just after 8 o'clock this morning. Firefighters found a man inside this property on Mitchison Road. He was pronounced dead at the scene again. An investigation is underway to determine the cause of the fire. Emergency services have been out in Regent's Park in North London after a group of fishermen found a grenade in the Regent's Canal. Met police say the device has now been made safe. Emergency services workers have been leaving the scene. A 50-year-old man has been arrested in Dundee in connection with the disappearance of a woman and 2 children from South Gloucestershire. Police attended a property in Troon Avenue in Dundee yesterday afternoon as they searched for missing Benelin Burke, who was 25, and 2 children. They say inquiries are ongoing and there will be an increased police presence in the area over the coming days.
LBC News.
A leaked document suggests the government is considering cutting foreign aid to some of the world's poorest and most conflict-hit countries. The Guardian says a file obtained by the investigative website Open Democracy shows Syria, Somalia, Libya and Nigeria are among countries that would see their support cut by more than half. This week it was confirmed that Yemen's aid budget is being cut from £164 million to £87 million. The former International Development Secretary and current Conservative MP for Sutton Coldfield, Andrew Mitchell, told BBC News that these cuts could put the UK at risk.
By making these determined more safe and more prosperous, we become more safe and more prosperous too. If you tackle the effects of terrorism misery in sub-Saharan Africa, you stop that being exported to the UK. So I would argue
It's the next left.
very well. And certainly in the past, the watchdogs have said that it's some of the most
This will bring you up by the TA barracks.
that the government does. Remember this, that the 0.7, which is the amount of aid we spend, goes up and down with the performance of our economy. So already a huge amount of spending will be cut because of the nature of the falling. And secondly, no one believes it's a temporary cut. You know, it's not credible to think that government ministers will wake up one morning next year and say the economy is doing so well, we're going to increase foreign direct assistance. So I would argue that the cuts that were announced this week, which are horrific
He's doing a good 30 miles an hour. Not bad.
Staying dry further south. Periods of sunshine.
4:33 right now here on LBC News. It looks like Rangers are going to take it.
We're now going to turn right and follow the sign for Bradford.
Premiership title this afternoon. Their first in a decade. They are leading 3-0 at Ibrox this afternoon. If they should win and Celtic slip up against Dundee United tomorrow, then Rangers will be champions. Many fans gathered outside Ibrox before kick-off, breaking COVID rules. Now let's get more on exactly what happened from LBC's Jack Foster.
Huge numbers of Rangers fans had dispersed by kick-off here in Ibrox, leaving behind a sea of broken bottles, music, smoke bomb canisters. They turned out in celebratory mood ahead of what looks likely to be Rangers' first Premiership win in over a decade. In normal times, it seems like this would be entirely expected, but these, of course, are not normal times. COVID restrictions mean that public gatherings and school.
There's usually parked cars on the left, so be careful on this road. These lights, if one goes amber, stop at the second.
Hamilton is currently goalless. Let's get an update from the Premier League match, which is underway at Bramall Lane. Sheffield United hosting Southampton. Dave Eason.
Sheffield United 0, Southampton 2. The Saints still leading through that second half penalty, extending their lead to the second half pile driver from Shea Adams to the edge of the area after James Ward-Prowse had put them ahead in the first half through a penalty after Teller was brought down in the area from Ethan Ampadu. So Sheffield United really trying to, struggling to get back into this game. They've got new strikers on. Lise Mousset has come in off the bench, as well as Ollie McBurney, but they're not troubling Fraser Forster in the Southampton goal at all. And Saints currently looking quite comfortable. Sheffield United 0, Southampton 2.
Arsenal were frustrated to only draw 1-1 at Burnley in the early kick-off. They hit the post in stoppage time after having a late penalty for handball overruled by VAR. Their opponent's equaliser also came after a stray Granit Xhaka pass bounced off Chris Wood and into the net. Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta says everything that could go wrong actually happened.
When you come here, which is a top place, and you generate the chances that we created, don't score enough, give a goal to the opponent, and then don't get the decisions that you should get, then it becomes pretty difficult to win a game in the league.
There's a West Midlands derby tonight. Aston Villa host Wolves from 5:30. Third place Leicester go to Brighton in the late kick-off tonight. And England's cricketers have suffered a 3-1 defeat in their test series with India. They collapsed to another innings and 20 inside 3 days.
And there you are.
LBC News.